Welcome to the Microsoft Tech Takeoff session on generative AI and next generation of Intune features. I'm Lavanya Lakshman, Product Manager on the generative AI efforts with the Intune team.
My name's Scott Duffy, and I'm a Product Manager on the Intune team.
Hey everybody, my name is Ravi Ashok. I'm also a Product Manager on the Intune team, and we're all really excited to be here today to talk to you a little bit about generative AI and what it means for Intune. As a quick agenda for this, we want to start by talking about what exactly is generative AI, just to level set real quick. Then we'll talk a little bit about Security Copilot, as well as Intune and Security Copilot and what we're building. We're also really excited to talk to you a little bit about other things that we're thinking about in our roadmap. And most importantly, we want to hear from you. What's on your mind? What is interesting to you in this space? What should we be thinking about as the Intune team? So let's get going. Just at a really high level, let's start by talking about what is generative AI. And to do that, let's split it up into its two pieces, generative and AI. This is an oversimplification, but it helps to think about it this way as we look forward to the rest of our discussion. When we talk about generative, we mean creating something new that hasn't been seen before, like text or sounds or images or code. And when we talk about the AI part of this context, we mean using a computer instead of a human to do that creation. So when we start talking about interacting with generative AI using a chat, think of what you see, the capabilities that you see, as a smart word generator. It's basically guessing what it thinks you want to see based on what it knows from its model. So how does generative AI actually create something new? Like I mentioned, it can create something that has not been seen before, but it needs inspiration. And what I mean by inspiration is something that you might have heard of called language modeling. Language modeling, or large language models, are used so that generative AI can actually give you that prediction, give you what it thinks you want to see. And these large language models have been trained on extremely large sets of data. Text, images, code, everything we talked about. However, they can't generate insights like useful information for you to act on as a human in the context of your work out of thin air by themselves. Large language models need to be equipped with, first of all, the ability to reason over relevant data for what you're interested in, and also the ability to understand what is contextually relevant or interesting in the context of that data for it to answer your questions. Once you equip a large language model like GPT with those tools, you can enable interaction with extremely large amounts of data using a natural language interface. So that means I don't have to learn a new coding language or anything like that. I can just talk to my data. And that interaction will be capable of answering complex questions and providing actionable insights. So with that context in mind, how do we leverage this power of generative AI with the data from Microsoft products and services? And now I'm going to hand it off to Lavanya to talk a little bit more about Microsoft Security Copilot.
Thank you, Ravi. With that great introduction to generative AI, let's understand who is Security Copilot built for. Security Copilot is built for anyone who works in areas and has a persona that falls into a SOC analyst, IT admin, sec admin, or help desk. And the whole idea is to enable and empower them with even more various roles that they play within their organization. The data that comes together here is so powerful. It could be across the various platforms, the various device OS that's available, and also ensuring that we are bringing the security, management, identity, and compliance together to better understand and manage your environment. Now, let's see how all of these information kind of comes together. First things first, Intune data is available in the Security Copilot platform and as part of the standalone offering that's available. The power of data across all the 6 products is there in one single place. And we are not forgetting our in-product experience where we want to still continue to enable, assist, and empower you all with the right kind of information. So all of this is happening right at the same time. And some of the experiences that we would be demoing later during this talk will talk about how those experiences come to life. Now, one of the important questions as you see this view is, how are all of these data coming together? What is happening to the whole Copilot experience in terms of the data that is getting handled? important aspect here for us to consider is we want to be able to do the development as well as deployment of AI in a guided and an ethical way, which is where Microsoft has come up with this framework where we consider the principles as the front and center of this entire journey, with six important pivots, which is around privacy and security being front and center and top of mind, not forgetting about the reliability and safety of the data that is being handled, and also ensuring that there is right level of inclusiveness, accountability, and also the right level of transparency and fairness to the data that is getting handled and for all the insights that is getting built. Now, again, all of this is great in terms of the principle. Then, how are we going to translate this principle in terms of actions? First things first, we want to ensure that we are going through the governance process as a key building block. Next, we talk through the rules to standardize AI requirements. Third, we talk about training and the best practices that needs to go behind each of these initiatives. And at the end of it, the tools needed for all of these implementation are going to be super critical. Now, when all of these building blocks kind of comes together, what does it mean for our customers? Security Copilot can be prompted from various solutions. It could be Intune, it could be Defender, Sentinel, or any other products that we saw in some of the previous views. Now, once these prompts are available, it's going to go through a pre-processing where the right selection of skills behind the scenes happens, and also the various plugins from Microsoft that is available, and based on the terms and conditions, if there are any integration with the third-party security products before the large language model prepares a response. During the model's processing, responsible AI checks are performed, and after the final validation with the needed plugins is when the prompt response is given back to the end user. So, as you think about this whole complex journey of going through the various stages has been very well methodically handled by Microsoft, and we are ensuring that the customer data is not stored outside of the compliance boundary, and it is neither used to train any of the foundational model. Now, all of this complex data processing is for us to worry about. All you need to think about is these augmentations behind the scenes kind of is helping empower you and making you be the pilot in this journey, where we as Copilot are helping provide the right kind of information and keeping the responsible AI principles in mind. Let's look at some of the Intune areas of work and the exciting features that we want to bring to the table. It could be anything to do with policy generation or troubleshooting, or even how we are thinking about setting up your devices, enrolling them, and also some of the future forward-looking thinking around reporting. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Scott, who is going to talk through some of the exciting demos he has to show.
Before we get started with demos, please note that what you're about to see represent features in development, and the capabilities and the experiences shown are subject to change for final release.
So I think the best way to tell you about what we're doing in the policy management space at Intune is to show you a demo. So here I am in the Intune console, and I really want to show you how Security Copilot can translate intent into configuration. Consider the scenario here where the security team, after resolving an incident, want to make changes to mitigate the risk of the issue occurring again. In this example, the security team want to restrict users from connecting any external storage devices to laptops. They want to block everything and then later on add approved devices on a case-by-case basis. Now, finding a solution to a new requirement like this typically takes days to research, but now with Security Copilot integration, the IT admin can simply ask Copilot how to achieve that outcome. Here, the IT admin simply uses the prompt, create a policy that blocks users from using any removable storage on Windows 11 laptops. Notice that Connie, the IT admin, is in the driver's seat here. The Copilot has matched her intent with a setting and a value to achieve her goal, and she has the option to either draft the policy or to try something else. Once Connie enters this familiar policy creation flow, she can use Copilot's embedded experiences to ensure she's making the right policy choices. This Copilot entry point provides setting insights by consolidating and summarizing relevant data across multiple data sources such as Microsoft documentation. And along with the content the Copilot has provided, you'll notice that there's sources or reference material listed with a link that she can go follow up on for further information and reading. It's not just Microsoft documentation that the Copilot provides insights on, though. This prompt checks Microsoft security baselines for further guidance on settings. Now the IT admin can resume their normal flow in the policy creation wizard, choosing any scope tags and assignment groups here to deploy to. Here's where it gets interesting though. When they land on the review page, Copilot can help summarize all of the changes they're about to make. And this can be particularly helpful when a policy needs to be documented somewhere, like a change control log, or communicated with a colleague. Notice that Copilot has provided details about the policy itself and all of the settings in it, as well as the impacted users or devices by connecting with data across Microsoft such as Entra ID. The admin can even ask more targeted questions about the policy, such as a summary of impact to users. So this output shows that the policy has both benefits and some potential downsides that should be considered before broad deployment. Security Copilot in Intune can even help prevent conflicts by comparing this policy with others already configured in the tenant and then returning key details around those conflicts. Here you can see that the removable storage setting is going to conflict with the standard configuration policy, which has it set to disable. When it comes to troubleshooting, we're envisioning an assistant that can help retrieve information that you need to get to root causes faster. You'll see in the demo that we're developing skills that can not only retrieve data, but also use that data in ways that were not possible before. For example, comparing device configuration to other devices or the apps across devices, or even finding the reasons behind error codes. Let's take a look. We've heard loud and clear from IT admins that device troubleshooting is both time-consuming and labor-intensive. Intune has a wealth of device data that can be helpful to find the root cause of device issues. And this includes things like hardware, configuration, apps, and even health data. Security Copilot has capabilities that can help you find the needle in the haystack by looking through all of this useful data. In the last demo, we showed how Copilot can help with managing and deploying policy. But now consider the reverse of that situation. A user has called the service desk and reported they're being affected by some sort of device restriction. In this example, Connie, the service desk representative, is totally unaware of the policy changes that went out in the environment and uses Copilot to help diagnose the issue. The user Serena has logged a support ticket claiming that the Windows search capability has gone missing from the start menu. First, Connie launches the embedded Copilot experience in the context of the Windows device. Notice that Connie has access to suggested prompts and an open prompt area to ask any questions of her own. Here she asks for a summary of the device, and notice how the output includes key details both from Intune and Entra ID. The fact that the device is non-compliant is definitely interesting and something that she'll come back to, but for now she's going to focus on the issue at hand. With the goal of solving this Windows search mystery, Connie asks about configuration policies that could help her further understand what might be actually causing this problem. The output shows the configuration policies, and Connie suspects that the issue is related to this one called Search and Start Menu Restrict, POC. Connie can use another prompt here to drill in and see what that configuration policy actually does. She's using an open prompt and just typing out describe Intune policy and the name of the policy. The Copilot output shows that this policy is likely causing the problem reported by Serena. It also shows which groups that the policy is assigned to, the warehouse PCs group. At this point, it's looking like the policy has been inadvertently deployed to Serena's PC. One last prompt is used to surface that information, the group membership of her PC. Now Connie can turn her attention to Serena's second issue. Serena reports that she's missing a required mobile app, the Warehouse app, on her Android device. She's sure it's something that she should have since her colleague Rory has it on his. Here, Serena asks the Copilot about managed apps that are installed on the device. The output here shows that the Warehouse app is not installed. Now Connie investigates a little further. She starts by asking the Copilot about Connie's colleague, Rory's device, since Serena said that all her colleagues have this app installed. Here's where things get really interesting though. Connie's next prompt is asking for a comparison between the two devices. How are managed apps on this device different to Rory's device? The output here shows that indeed Rory has the Warehouse Management app installed, but Serena does not. Finally, Connie follows up on her hunch that the app is not showing up for Serena due to a targeting issue. So she asks about the groups that the Warehouse app is assigned to. To resolve this issue, all Connie has to do is add Serena's device to the Warehouse Department mobile group. Finally, Connie returns to the non-compliance issue that she noticed when she was first troubleshooting Serena's Windows PC, because she thinks that this might become a problem. Not knowing a lot about this policy or setting or the non-compliance reason, Connie can ask the Copilot to help her understand. Here, Copilot gives her enough information to clearly understand that there's a Defender security threat level policy applying to Serena's device. The next course of action for Serena will be to look at the policy settings more closely and investigate why this device has actually been flagged with some sort of Defender risk. So there's some demos on policy and troubleshooting scenarios that we're working on. Ravi will take you through some other cool areas.
All right. Thank you, Scott, for those awesome demos. I want to talk to everybody about a couple more areas that we're looking at, both in terms of things we're working on now and things that we're starting to investigate as we look to the future of Security Copilot and Intune features. The first is setup tasks. Think of this area of setup tasks as the combination of Microsoft's best practices and recommendations put together with the power of Copilot's policy generation capabilities that you just saw Scott show off. Today, we've built a number of foundationally useful skills so that you can use Copilot to understand recommended configurations for targeted scenarios in Intune. Things like setting up Windows devices in the cloud with recommended configurations, or how to start off managing Macs in Intune by setting up a device pilot. In the future, we're looking at converging these foundationally useful capabilities with Copilot's policy generation capabilities to help admins execute on the understanding that they get from these recommendations and actually create the Intune objects they need to get complex projects done in their environment. You'll see on the screen here just a few examples of the kinds of things that you can ask Copilot today. And we're hard at work thinking about how we integrate these types of guided projects into the Intune experience. Just as an example, you'll see me here asking, how do I get started setting up a macOS device pilot in Intune? And Copilot's able to give me some useful initial recommendations to get started. Getting further into that, I can ask Copilot about individual steps. For example, whether I've got step 1 in that process covered already. And Copilot can actually look at my environment, my devices, my policies, my Intune objects, and give me useful information about whether I've done something and how to set it up using recommended settings if I haven't. We're excited to talk more about this when we have more to share down the road. So that kind of does it for a few of the key areas we talked about: policy generation, troubleshooting, and now setup tasks. Finally, I want to talk about another future-looking area that we're starting to investigate that we're really excited about, and that is reporting. Custom reporting with Intune and Security Copilot has all kinds of different possibilities. And when we think about it, with the start of our journey so far, we're looking at it from the angle of enabling natural language interaction with Intune data to answer key questions that IT admins have. Basically carrying out custom queries against your Intune environment to help you get your work done. What this boils down to from a Copilot perspective is identifying a custom slice of your environment to help you get something done. This could be completing an IT admin task, like exporting a list of devices for review or further processing, drafting an email to fulfill a data request from another department about our device inventory, or perhaps identifying a certain set of devices so that you can deploy a policy or an app to them. On the other hand, you might want to identify a custom slice of your environment to create a persistent report, a dashboard of some kind that you come back to over time. For the start of our custom reporting journey with Copilot, we're focusing on the first half of this, helping IT admins complete tasks for their day-to-day work using Copilot and its capabilities to reason over your device data. To do this, we're looking at multiple data sources, our graph APIs, some of the new features that we're building, as well as additional data and platform investments to enable complex queries against your environment. Just to give you some inspiration, here are some things that we're looking at enabling actively right now. We want to enable IT admins in any scenario to bring a natural language query against their environment, like the ones you see on the screen here, without really having to understand what are the underlying data constructs in Intune that I need to understand to actually get that information, or without needing to understand how do I craft a query or build a script to go get the data that I'm looking for. In the future, we want IT admins to be able to bring a query like this, what OS version is a particular device running, or ask Copilot to give you a list of devices that match a certain criteria, and then attach the data to an email or help you compose a policy out of it. Bring these requests the way that you think about it in your head and help Copilot translate that into the queries that you need and ultimately the output that you need to achieve your goal. It could be that you want to set a policy on some devices or just generate a report for yourself to review offline. Whatever it is, these are the kinds of things that we're excited at looking at enabling in Intune down the road. Now, our journey toward this starts small. You've probably heard at this point about some of the exciting new features that are coming with Intune in terms of something called device query that allows you to get on-demand information from devices in terms of what's going on right now. To do this, you can craft a KQL query against a certain set of properties on your device. Now imagine for a second that you had Copilot at your right-hand side to help you with this. We're really excited about this, and we think it's going to really help customers engage with this feature. You can bring your natural language query again without really having to understand the underlying query language, and Copilot can help you get the data that you need. All right. So that was a quick overview of a few key areas that we're working on in Intune in terms of integrating the power of Security Copilot into the product to help IT admins do their work more quickly, efficiently, and to save them time and effort. I want to hand it off to Lavanya for a couple of final remarks.
Thank you so much, Ravi. I think you all had an exciting opportunity to see the demos that we had to share with you in terms of what is available as part of product capability. And we are always eager and looking forward to the feedback from you all and answer more questions as part of the live Q&A. With that, thank you so much, everyone, on behalf of my team. Thank you.